Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we're back to another live stream of Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel and video game news. Today is Wednesday, June 14th. And I have to tell you, when it rains, it pours. Marvel Snap has a new Conquest mode out. The Legend Anthology Academy event is now underway on Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Masters. I am working incredibly well, not hard is the wrong word to use. My computer is working incredibly hard on a new upgraded version of my programs to make YouTube shorts for every single game that has been announced from the Summer Game Fest, which is effectively over now. But man, there's probably 200 shorts that are just going to get dumped on my channel either today or tomorrow. The good news is the new code, I figured out in a small flash of brilliance how to just write code to get the actual names of the game in a separate CSV, comma separated value file. So now my first program that works with Firefox, the browser, will grab the name of the game and make a file, and the URL of the game and make a separate file. So two files. That then hands it off to the second program that checks to see if there's a new file and then loads in that new file with the URL into OBS. Then my third script slash macro slash program gets a signal from the second program to start recording the video and making the 1 minute YouTube short. That sends it to the fourth program that then has to do some final cleanup of rotating the video because the video is actually recorded at a 90-degree angle just because of some weirdness. And then after the fact, it's rotated to be upright in a portrait view. And that fourth script has been updated to then read the second file. And when it reads the second file, it makes it renames the actual video file on my hard drive the name of the game. And if you on YouTube don't have a default title in the upload default settings, if you just leave the form blank, it will use the name of the file without the extension. So that automates the whole process. There's even more work to be done though, because with the newest version of Advanced Scene Switcher, the macro, the third program there in that long chain of programs, can randomize, and thus with a little bit more prep work I can have it randomize and change the audio that goes in the background. So no longer in a potential future when I get that code going, no longer will it just be the exact same song over and over again. Inherently, that same coding probably is going to be used in live streams. We're going to work towards having potentially a playlist after I stop playing Yu-Gi-Oh! We'll have it like scripted automatically that once I shift to with a hotkey, it will mute Yu-Gi-Oh! Music that's playing in the background like this, and it will start a selection and a playlist of songs that are fairly well known to be not copyright claimable. Let's go ahead and skip here. Now, on the bad news, as far as the accountability section, and this is really the only bad news, is that I didn't play any of the Lord of the Rings adventure card game or make any other footage over the past couple days because my computer was working without me, which just gave me a lot of opportunity to watch the newest season of Human Resources, and I think I also may have watched Silo on Apple TV Plus. Although I started watching Silo, and I would say it's alright to watch, except for you do probably need to watch it on a weekly basis because it is a new show. Let's see, what is there anything really new here on the Solo? Not like I'd have any time to do a new Solo anyways. Yeah, it does look like there isn't anything super new. So, I have to say Yu-Gi-Oh! In particular, and Marvel Snap, both are just really taking the piss at the moment, because having this event right around the Summer Game Fest is really just asking for too much competition. Marvel Snap putting out the Conquest mode is way too much competition. It's just like way too much everything, and it's going to lead to that standard general malaise in the minds of most gamers, in which, yeah, probably about 200 games were announced and you won't remember but 5 of them by the end of the week. I looked here previously as far as the limitations if you were going to copy an existing deck, and both my Zodiac Tri-Brigade and the Tearlaments deck are completely unacceptable. Like maybe this Gym Knights game deck, kind of knowing where this is going to go, but I think for the most part we'll just be playing with the Loners deck, and yeah, the hope will be to get to at least 5,500 points, but I don't know. I really don't have a lot of motivation at the moment to play extra Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm still playing Star Trek lower decks, but I am transitioning certainly from the early game to the mid game, at which point the game definitely feels like it is just getting more dragged out as a resource management experience. So things are just taking longer and longer, and it's just gonna, every new level is gonna exponentially be longer, or not, probably not actually exponentially. The Marvel Snap Conquest thing update is not so much a ranked mode, because that's kind of what the only way to play was in the first place. The rankings in Marvel Snap are your collection level. Your collection level goes up by building and upgrading your cards, and it only goes up, it never falls down. The more you increase your collection level in general, I think the more you get the seasonal points, the season pass stuff. Let me look at this. Yeah. You get those points possibly by doing daily quests too. But yeah, there's just no reward specifically directly connected to beating people until they put in Conquest mode. That being said, what Conquest mode effectively boils down to is that there are 4 ranked tiers. I don't even know if you really call them ranked tiers. There's 4 levels of challenge, and in the first level of challenge you get a free entry and you have to beat 1. It is 100% first loss and you're out throughout all the challenges. So you beat the first tier by beating 1 person in a very different way of playing compared to normal Marvel Snap. And on that first tier, you then get a ticket to the second tier. On the second tier, you have to win 2. On the third tier, you have to win 3. No losses. On the fourth tier, you have to win 5 to get the highest rewards. You're getting other rewards anyways, though, so if you do lose and you have to go back, you could just start over from the beginning, or you could spend the premium gold to buy a ticket and skip ahead. I wouldn't recommend that. There are 9 items in a new shop, so in a lot of ways you're earning these medal points, and by earning the medal points you're effectively just being shown a different shop in a game that already has a fairly high amount of shop options. Just by default, there's always a $20 thing on sale. There's always the premium gold between $5 and $100 on sale, and there's always a $100 pro bundle on sale on that shop, which is different than the Conquest shop, which the Conquest items are only purchasable by the winning medals, so it's another currency, confusing the whole thing. They did add something to the main shop in which you can use the collection tokens, which is yet another currency they added. I have not paid one bit of attention. I literally have not paid any attention to the game up until this point. I guess it's just been the opponent playing for this whole time. So being able to buy a random Series 3 card for 1,000 tokens, collection tokens, is a pretty decent offer, I think, if you literally just want to own all the cards. And I've done it twice already, and if I do it one more time, I won't have any more Series 3 cards I even could get. So I assume at that point it is just going to lock me out. It would be nice if for the same price then I start unlocking Series 4. The series in Marvel Snap are crazy, though, that we're up to like Series 5, 6, 7 already, when the game has been out less than a year, and they really didn't make a big deal about series, and I think they retroactively added the concept of series as far as series of new cards. But effectively, these new changes are still 100% around being OCD and collecting cards compared to actually playing cards or playing the card game. Now, the Conquest mode effectively gives you life points for the Infinity Gem in the middle when you snap. So you're raising the stakes in the battle as far as how much damage you will take if you lose. And so it could be 1, it could be 2, it could be 4, or it could be 8. You have, I think, about 12 life points. So worst case scenario, you're going to lose after 2 really bad rounds, I guess is what you'd call them. But you play the rounds against the same person over and over again. So that creates an interesting situation where whatever deck you pick, you're locked into, and then you're just playing the same person over and over again for that round, which, generally speaking, I think sets you up in such a terrible position if you are going to lose, that by the first game, if you have no strategy that's even going to get lucky against somebody else's deck, you're just going to lose, and then you have to just keep on playing the same person over and over again, losing. So it feels kind of like a tournament mode more than anything else, and kind of a time wasty tournament mode in that you're playing the same people over and over again. I would have thought that maybe you would have done best 2 out of 3 before you got to something like this. They're definitely still very focused on the snap concept more than something different with the cards. It's also very weird that there isn't a mode with different where the lands are all normal lands, because that certainly could be a different way of things going if you didn't have to think about lands. Or there isn't a mode where you have a random collection of cards that you have to play with. That would be very good for Marvel Snap also. But yeah. Would have made a lot more sense for the Conquest mode to come out next week instead of this week. I was talking about that Serial Experiments Lane augmented reality game. I looked at it some more, and it does seem like, at least in Japan, there might actually be an actual video game coming out. I don't think there's been enough announced yet or anything like that, so we'll just have to see if something actually happens from that. But there's really just a ton of news today. For YouTubers, YouTube about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago maybe, totally screwed over all small time content creators and tenfold increased the requirements. If basically you needed previously, before the big change, you needed 100 subscribers, and I don't know if you even needed any amount of watch time at all. I think it may very well have just been you needed 100 subscribers. Which, yeah, I might be wrong about the number there, but I don't think so. It was really, really low. Then they jacked it up to 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours, which over the course of this time, my watch hours have dropped down almost 100%, I'm sure, because I've been not putting out as many of the pre-recorded long-form videos, or they just have not been doing as well because YouTube's algorithm hasn't been promoting it. So now, basically, with the new person in charge, they've thrown a bone here, and definitely there was an argument, like the reason why what they've done now is being done is the exact same logic that would have been applicable when they made the original change, but I assume YouTube is just getting a little bit desperate here and not making as much money as they'd want. So they have lowered the requirements for everything except for the one thing that you probably would benefit from as a small-time content creator, which is actually running ads on your videos. It's way easier to run ads on your video and get pennies per view than it is to be a small-time YouTube content creator who is then asking his 100 subscribers or 500 subscribers in this case, because they've this new lower tier, you need like 500 subscribers and less watch time. Honestly, I think it's 1,000 watch hours, and I think even at that, I don't have 1,000 watch hours. So I am at the 500 points, but unless I could get a whole bunch of YouTube shorts or views or Wow. That's cool. Let's go ahead and do that. Wow, just draw cards. Sweet. So yeah, this new lowered requirements lets you do like super thanks, super chats, things like that. Things where your fan base would directly give money to you. It is clearly directly in the face of hoping that it would convince less people to push people to something like Patreon. Although Patreon, I think, is more of a monthly subscription anyway, so it's not a one-to-one comparison. The problem there, though, is you're talking very small content creators. So if I have 500 subscribers, unless they are an extremely rich, extremely niche, and extremely loyal fan base, you're probably getting one at most person who would ever take you up on the offer of giving like a super thanks. Whereas running ads, you're forcing all your audience to watch ads, yes, but that gives you fractions of a penny from all of your viewers, most of which who, this is the sad truth about commercials as they've been set up, most people are trained to prefer to get something for free and watch ads and waste their time than they are in a scenario where they would instead where's this guy? A 0-0, by the way. Each continuous trap in your graveyard. Ah, so I need these to go in the graveyard for this to get any kind of attack. So I did all of that and just didn't know the card well enough. That's definitely my fault. So yeah, and all of these lower tiered monetization options still have YouTube taking their cut. So, but it does also create a scenario in which the YouTube is potentially cutting out advertisers, which, yeah, you can see a benefit potentially of trying to cut out the advertisers completely. So this is the evolved semi-demigods. So yeah, as far as I see it, we very possibly, if I did get monetized, I very possibly will open up some revenue directions for revenue, but I don't think that is going to help me or most small content creators as much as they're pretending it. Overall, content creators may want to be in the YouTube Partner Program, but it is not really anything if you're just in this fake lower tier of the YouTube Partner Program, and it doesn't really mean much or mean anything at all. Maybe the algorithm then will recommend my videos more, and definitely this is a step in the right direction. I still would have preferred YouTube announce some kind of Twitter competitor. I think if they could roll something out like that and actually commit to it, there'd probably be some better benefit for that. And frankly, if YouTube would just have a better software to upload videos, that'd be helpful too. Or got rid of the upload limits. It's ridiculous that you can only upload 15 videos at a time, but then also you can only upload 80 to 100 videos a day, particularly when you're promoting YouTube Shorts. They definitely just feel like they're thinking in a narrower box than all the possibilities they could be thinking about. As far as major news, I think The Last of Us fans, Naughty Dog says they'll be celebrating the 10th anniversary by honoring the series' impact, their studio, and their love for The Last of Us. They will not be making any game development announcements. To start with, they'll share some favorite photo mode shots that fans submitted. So yeah, an anniversary ending in a 0 happened, and they're coming out and saying we don't have anything to announce, which is almost certainly a major failure on their part. At the very least, you could probably have announced The Last of Us Season 2, or released a new video or behind the scenes shot, held something back there. I mean, the fact that they can't even nebulously say, hey, we plan on making a new Last of Us game, is telling. Speaking of a failure, Unity reports show a sharp decline of in-app mobile spending during the 2022's end, which, with Unity being a very successful, or at least they used to be a very successful engine for making mobile games, their numbers should be telling. The problem, in particular for Unity, if not for the entire mobile gaming market, though, is that Unity has become not particularly well maintained and well served, and ever since some major changes happened. And so game developers are not really that interested in using it. Just picking things. Want to discard field spell. I have no idea what I'm doing here. I'm not sure any of it matters either. And we definitely need Unity to succeed a little bit better, because we don't want to become a one-engine game industry where everything is made in Unreal, every mobile game even potentially being made in Unreal Engine. Although that would be convenient and nice, it's just going to lead to a lot of monopoly actions in the long run. Finally, we can attack. So I guess if I can just attack the next turn. Of course, we could satisfy the Unity problem with just a new engine being adapted and coming up. Sorry, going quiet here. I'm trying to organize all the news. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna get too much done today. The good news, I guess, is that since I still have some automated videos to make, I can't use my computer while the automation is going. So I can either do Lego, which I started, or I could potentially play Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel off screen on my phone, which also makes some sense. But yeah, here's the fan funding, the shopping. The other thing they're promoting is this idea of shopping and linking to items for sale, affiliate links, which is definitely a strike in particular at the Amazon affiliate program. So here we go. The lowered requirements here are 500 subscribers, which I have, 3 valid public uploads in the last 90 days. Depending on what they determine to be valid, I think I've got that, since I've got ridiculous amounts of uploads. And then 3,000 valid public watch hours in the past year, which over the past year, I think is way different than what the requirements are for the main YouTube partner program and commercials. And those requirements don't seem like they're changing in any way. Although I wouldn't be surprised if they do change at some point. The other option, instead of having 3,000 valid public watch hours, which you really couldn't do if you were just really successful at shorts, would be to have 3 million valid public shorts views in the last 90 days. Which, even at that, that's still going to be a massive amount. I have to say, I really enjoyed this deck, Chaos from the Spirit Gates. It didn't work for me, but it definitely felt fun to play that. And that's something I cannot say about most of these loner decks they give us. They're going to roll out this lower level to US, UK, and Canada, Taiwan, and South Korea. And then the other countries later. The shop affiliate program in particular, I think, is definitely a direction they want to go, but it is also going to drastically potentially change the types of videos that people start making. You're going to see more and more shills trying to make regular videos and shorts just to try to convince people to buy products. You're going to see a lot more lying and just straight up fraud attempted. And if you don't see fraud, you'll just see a lot of people talking about a lot more products and going the whole shopping route as their main focus. There are some limitations on how many products you can actually suggest, so it's not like there's going to be these massively long lists, and they are trying to put some limitations on what you're promoting, so you aren't just going to have random they're going to try it so you don't have just random objects on sale. They want it to be more of a scenario where this guy's wearing headphones, he's talking about headphones, so you can view the products. They want it to be relevant. They don't want somebody talking about how they were late to work one day and then they're selling headphones for no reason. There's 50 brands, which that is actually what I wanted to check out, is to see where your affiliate goes. And you get different commissions, and it shows you what the commission is going to be. It doesn't seem to me like YouTube is taking any cut the way they're depicting it, but I am 100% sure that is not the case. They will show you get 15% commission, which probably means that YouTube is getting another 5% to potentially 15% commission on all sales. If somebody clicks on your link and adds other things into their shopping cart, you get commissions on the entire purchase, which is not terrible, and seems very fair. Also, because this is all going through YouTube, you have only one company to hate and have to deal with, whereas when I tried to do like the Amazon.com affiliate program, they were a nightmare and were not really willing to work with anybody who wasn't already super big and successful. And that's why you don't really see that many people having Amazon affiliate links in their videos. Not anywhere as many as there could have been. Again, this is potentially something that might show up, is that I may have like affiliate products for the hardware I'm using, which I think is the only way it would be really relevant, unless I'm going to have links to actual games, and I doubt Steam is going to be the affiliate there. Although that would be the most relevant thing ever, is if I was covering a game to have a link towards the purchase of that game. The other thing about the affiliate links is that if you click on one, the person, whoever clicks on it, will be giving commission to the YouTube content creator, potentially for 30 days. So, as long as they don't click on another affiliate link, if they go back to that storefront and buy again, you still would get a commission for up to 30 days there. It's not terrible. And I would say clicking on a product and buying a product you really want to do and supporting a content creator that way is probably probably a little bit better of a deal than having a bunch of content creators begging for super thanks. Which would be the other option, certainly, is to just get a bunch of super thanks and beg for that. And I cannot do anything, can I? Alright. Well, the page they link to either needs to be updated or the shopping element is different, because it says here you have to have 20,000 subscribers, which that feels like that's a completely different limitation. They also have mentioned here that official artist channels and channels associated with music partners such as music labels, distributor, publishers, and Vivo are not eligible for third-party product tracking. So they've exclusively excluded them. there's also some protections here where if your channel is set for made for kids or has a significantly high amount of videos made for kids, then they're not allowed to advertise, which that's like literally US law. Like there are extremely limited amounts of ways you can advertise products to kids. So something like Ryan's toy reviews, if that's still a thing, really would not it really wouldn't be the best type of channel to try and have product connected to it. Notably, of the listing of types of things you can advertise, there is a limited number of types of companies here. You have, under the beauty category, Bloomingdale's, Claire's, Elf Cosmetics, all of these. Sephora. These are recognizable names under beauty, and I think definitely some of this comes around either the massive amount of success around beauty channels on YouTube, or the fact that the old YouTube CEO was really pushing beauty channels quite a bit. Apparel and footwear also very much leaning more towards the female side of YouTube, which I don't know how much success really is there. And then you have generic home, let's skip, and then you have tech. Noticeably, while GameStop and tech might sell toys, you don't have anything here that would be a direct toy seller, and I'm not seeing Amazon.com at all, so this is definitely, it would be better, frankly, if you could include Amazon.com. I'm not seeing a Walmart either. Both, notably, Walmart and Amazon.com on their websites allow for third-party sellers, so there is also a lot of extra danger of potential affiliate links from cheap Chinese manufacturers, things like that would make very low quality products. So, yeah. This would need 2 tributes. I don't think there's a real reason to do that. Let's just see what happens here. So yeah, looking at tech, you have Newegg, but I really wouldn't want to be affiliated with Newegg that much. Newegg also effectively has third-party sellers who sell trash. You have some Samsung, which would be very limited. Then Lenovo, which is basically limited to computers, and then Adorama, which, let me just click on Adorama. I don't think I've ever been to Adorama, so I don't know what they sell. Is it camera equipment? Electronics? Let's see. Yeah, I think they were a camera company that has expanded, so yeah. Seems like it is possible there that you could do Adorama instead of doing GameStop. But I would also say, for me in particular, GameStop is a really good candidate for my channel. And then I could certainly see some of the building repair channels going for like Home Depot or Lowe's, and that creates a very different type of product that you could recommend if you're a building repair thing. Generally, I guess there really isn't a toy store because Toys R Us is gone. So even if you were going to try and sell toys, like affiliate links to GameStop, and it may very well be that there's only a limited subset of products. And then you also have Kids Foot Locker, so you can certainly try and sell kids products to kids, if in the form of shoes. Wayfair, the joke I've heard is that it's mostly garbage products. Some of these definitely could be very heavy in selling garbage products. But there's Target here, which that gives you a wide variety, certainly. So yeah, this is a good starting list, certainly, of potential affiliate companies. So yeah, of course, the social contract here that's being proposed, and that's probably a terrible phrase to use. The offer that's being proposed here is that people would, with some frequency, click on products and actually shop online to give an affiliate cut of somewhere between 1% to maybe 30% of what they spend to a YouTube content creator. And that deal is only really good if people are already spending the money, or already planning on spending the money. With the recession, with inflation, I don't know how many people are rolling in extra cash or already planning to spend money. There's a lot of people, certainly, that don't want to buy anything at the moment or ever. And there's a lot of people, certainly, that don't want to buy things online, particularly when you start to push people to websites they're not really familiar with, as far as Adorama. The easiest choice would be to push people to GameStop for my content. I think that's probably about your safest bet. There's tons of GameStop local stores. Yeah. Almost certainly there will be some scammers out there that give it a try, and I imagine they'd get caught very quickly, but there's almost certainly going to be some scammers that are going to try and use stolen credit cards to buy a bunch of stuff to give a commission to a YouTuber, or give commissions to themselves with stolen credit cards, and then take just the 15% commission on the stolen credit card amount that was spent. But yeah, that probably wouldn't work. I guess technically, if you were going into bankruptcy, you might try to launder money that way, running up your own actual credit cards to give yourself a commission. But I imagine that too would eventually get caught, and frankly, you just wouldn't be getting enough money for it to be worth doing that. Now, I talked about earlier at the beginning of the stream how I've figured out how to make the title of these new games and YouTube Shorts custom to each game, so it actually says the title of the game instead of just saying check out this new PC game, which that will continue to air because I have so many of those scheduled in the future, but eventually that too will be changed, and it will be every YouTube short will have the name of the game. There's not really a process that I haven't seen process at all, but there's not one I foresee existing where I could potentially have an affiliate link to, I don't know, some GameStop link or some Steam. Now, if Steam became an affiliate all of a sudden, which Steam doesn't have an affiliate program at all as far as I know, then that would be really useful for me with all my YouTube shorts to have somebody link directly back to the game. But as it is, I can't even change the description, so the descriptions of the YouTube shorts are going to stay the same, so I can't insert a link that way. Eventually I probably could create something that there is APIs to make a Python program to upload videos, and that is the next step, is to find some extra free time and program a Python program that has a special unique token key just for me to use personally, not make a program that anybody else could really use, although you could program the program so it asks for the special Google API key to make an uploader. I wish somebody else would make the software though, instead of potentially me having to do it, but that's not going to happen. And YouTube already has other content management systems that integrate. It's just they're all too expensive, and they're all used by giant content management people, whether it's giant YouTubers or like partners that manage multiple channels. But yeah, if I was to program that program, at that point I could potentially change the description. And if you change the description to have a link in your description to a product, there is a possibility then that would be recommended. Although I imagine you'd still need to click a few things before it happens. Products can also be highlighted during live streams, so you'll start seeing more of that too. Inherently, almost certainly, as soon as this starts rolling out, you're going to see everybody and their dog try to have products mentioned, and it's just going to become yet another annoying button that people mentally turn off. And assuming that they're doing things right, somebody picking specific products to highlight in their pre-recorded videos or their live streams also gives YouTube a lot more information as far as what kind of commercials to show people, better, more targeted advertisement based on what the content creator is suggesting. So on a simple level, if you're suggesting a pair of headphones, all of a sudden you may start to see a lot more headphones. Moving over from that, since I talked way too much about that and it's not even video game related, that's where these live streams become more me just rambling and thinking about what's going on in my life. The FTC has awarded a temporary restraining order to halt the Microsoft Activision Blizzard deal. Microsoft will now be unable to close the deal until a court considers the FTC's request for a preliminary injunction. I don't think that's probably the right way to phrase that, because I feel like they've successfully already achieved one preliminary injunction by halting the process, which isn't really a big win for the FTC. The moving party in this case is Microsoft. Microsoft is seeking to change the status quo by having the Activision Blizzard merger happen, preliminary injunctions by judges are almost always accepted and just rubber stamped to maintain the status quo until all of the court case can be heard. That's basically the way it always goes. The only reason that wouldn't happen that way is if there was some kind of just irrevocable damage that could be shown. If this was a completely different type of case where somebody needed a new heart, you couldn't have somebody ask for a preliminary injunction until a court case has been heard, stopping somebody from getting a new heart. Because that would potentially kill the person, and that would be irrevocable damage that the court could not correct. But in every other case that's not as extreme as that, yes, the judge will say, yes, you cannot continue on this action if somebody has a good case they can potentially make. Now, a judge also won't give a preliminary injunction to somebody who's just being insane and like a jealous ex-husband could not get a preliminary injunction to stop his ex-wife from getting married again, or something like that. One would hope, at least, that would be the case. Let's see. Let's try this one. Oh, man, this is fun to summon all these characters. But you can see their usage rate is not high. You can see this Blackluster Soldier is not defeatable. I still feel like it's very likely that the Microsoft Activision Blizzard deal will go through, and yeah, I think Microsoft is at least projecting the same feelings, or the same assumption at least. Video Games Chronicle here wants to point out that it has been 6 years since Metroid Prime 4 was announced. Development was started again from scratch in 2019. So, in fairness, it's actually probably only been 4 years. That being said, there was no Nintendo Direct or any Nintendo games announced during the Summer Game Fest. Nintendo probably would do well if they announced that they were going to do a Nintendo Direct in the next 3 or 4 weeks, and then convinced people to forget about a lot of the games that were announced during the Summer Game Fest. It was a fairly low amount of games that had actual release dates announced anyways. Microsoft has signed a deal with the Outriders studio. People Can Fly for a new Xbox game. The codename Project Mavic will have $30 to $50 million budget. Okay. This is... I don't believe People Can Fly is owned by any other company, but they have done a lot of weird deals. If anything, People Can Fly might be one of the best companies as far as making deals with other people, and perhaps one of the worst companies as far as actually making final products that sell, or just making enough games. Since the whole Bulletstorm game is, I still feel like their latest game. They made Gears of War Judgment, Bulletstorm, and most recently Outriders, which I only recognized Bulletstorm from that list. We are just through brute force making small bits of progress through losing, which I guess, I mean, if you just stick to that, you will potentially succeed. We can see for this festival we needed to activate 20 spell trap cards. We've already done 15 or 16 of them. We needed to normal summon a monster. We've already done 24 of 30. And then we need to duel 30 times, and we've already done 5. On top of that, that also got some of the daily quest done, daily live, login, all that. So overall, that gave me 500 gems. Not really the largest amount. And now that we've come back, it seems like we've got an argument to keep on playing. I think we'll just stick with the Legend Anthology deck. Now, Embracer Games say they plan to explore the Lord of the Rings in a very significant fashion. It wants to turn it into one of the biggest gaming franchises in the world, and in all fairness, it probably should be. I would say Lord of the Rings, as far as a fictional story, excluding religious stories, the Lord of the Rings book is probably one of the best sellers out there ever, and as such it really should have more games. There should have been a longer strand of successful Lord of the Rings games. I do personally think there's some slight problems with the Lord of the Rings books. There's too many people. It's not very single player or single character centric. It's too much descriptions, too big of words, too much of a land mass. It really doesn't tell quite what I would say is an epic story as much as it tells a giant world building story. But I think you could work around all of that, certainly. And I just feel like what happened up until this point is that the Lord of the Rings people in charge of the IP were not really willing to make video games around it. Inherently, if Lord of the Rings had licensed itself out in the early days of first generation PC games, when you're talking about point and click adventure games, things like that, the fandom that would have been into something like Simon the Sorcerer as a point and click adventure game, almost certainly 100% overlap with Lord of the Rings fandom. So yeah, we could have had simplistic text-based games and point-and-click adventure type games all getting promoted and made for a long time, and that would have been a decent establishing point. I screwed that up. It is shocking that the only Lord of the Rings game that has had major impact or major success has been Shadow of Mordor, completely a complete spin-off, which frankly that first Shadow of Mordor game probably would have sold almost as well if it didn't have the Lord of the Rings tie-in. And there's just a massive amount of that Tolkien-esque fantasy with elves and such that has been created to replace Lord of the Rings fandom. Things like World of Warcraft, EverQuest. Like, by all rights, World of Warcraft should have been a licensed Lord of the Rings product, and it should have been this massive MMO that everybody played. So yeah, I think Embracer is definitely hitting the nail on the head that they need to, maybe exploit is the wrong word to say out loud, but they need to exploit the Lord of the Rings franchise as much as possible and try as much as possible. Where they're in the wrong, though, is that they have announced major restructuring and layoffs and cancellations of unannounced games. That $2 billion deal that they were working towards, that falling through, seemed to be really the only thing they were working on, because the two concepts to a layman's mind like mine just doesn't make any sense. That they're saying we had this $2 billion deal where we were going to acquire a big studio. That's what I think they were implying there. It wasn't that they were going to be acquired for $2 billion. I think it was $2 billion. It may have been $20 billion. Regardless, that deal falling through, in which they would have spent a lot of money in the weird accounting process, was also supposed to make shareholders super hyped so that your stock value would skyrocket. And because that deal fell through, their stock value didn't skyrocket, so now they're trying to get their stock value to skyrocket by canceling products and canceling games and spending less. Which at a certain level they should spend less. It does definitely make sense. They've spent a ton of money acquiring companies as Embracer Group, and they've failed to really force any of those companies to release games, which at this point some of them should be releasing games. Those games should come out. They should be tent poles. They should be showing that that the companies they acquired are profitable and valuable. Particularly Embracer Group acquired companies that didn't really have a lot of IP. If anything, Embracer Group set the pace of acquisitions that forced people like Microsoft to try and acquire other companies. But Microsoft acquired companies with actual valuable intellectual properties and games, whereas THQ Nordic, then being turned into Embracer Group, really is just trying to acquire a bunch of small game companies that don't have that much going on for them. And you can see that in that the biggest successes that I can even point out, or that I even know about as far as Embracer Group, is the SpongeBob SquarePants games. And then below that you have Darksiders 3 and the spin-off Darksiders game, neither of which were particularly well received. And below that, I can't name anything from Embracer Group. Definitely feels like Embracer Group was a company designed to just keep on acquiring and acquiring and acquiring, and had no other plan other than that, and did not have a backup plan if the economy took a turn or if there was a pandemic, which in all fairness, nobody really had a backup plan if there was a pandemic. But yeah, I think the Embracer Group in particular has failed to do the one thing that they would have liked to do, which is convince people that they were good guys as a corporation, and that they were going to bring back a bunch of old games and remaster them, or that they were going to publish new games and series like Darksiders 3, and that would have been great. This may be not such of a big news, but it's big to me because I love my Might and Magic Clash of Heroes. The definitive edition launches July 20th. The PC demo will be available from June 19th through the 26th. I don't understand this seemingly growing trend of PC demos only being available for a short time. Seems kind of ridiculous, particularly on Steam when you have the 2 hours, no questions asked refund policy. Seems almost like they are creating PC demos for no good reason and then even if you did have an argument to make a PC demo, you're not getting a lot of value out of it. The only thing I guess I could think is that maybe, just maybe, they can write off the entire development of a demo. Oh, this is my Legend Anthology deck. That's not really what I was hoping to play. Maybe they can write off the development of a demo if they stop giving away the demo for free. But no, that didn't make any sense either, because if they're giving away the demo for free, they could always write it off as a business expense towards the development of the main game, because it wouldn't have been a product that was ever designed to make profit in the first place. And by writing it off, I mostly mean they can tell shareholders that the demo cost us much, but it was a good investment because it led to more sales. So yeah, it's not going to be that long until the Might and Magic Classic Heroes Definitive Edition is out. Although, I don't know if there's really any new content coming out or anything like that. I don't think there is. So if you already own the game and DLC, it's probably at most going to be slightly better graphics. At worst, it won't even be that. Video Games Chronicles has the winners and losers of Summer Game Fest 2023. So here's an opinion feature that usually I'd skip over this, but just to get a general feel of where Video Games Chronicles heads is out, we'll scroll through it. They say Xbox was a winner. I think Xbox's showcase on Xbox's stage was very good. Here they actually do say Xbox. Nowhere did they say Microsoft though. Mostly it was just this logo. Well, very rarely on the stage. I think they benefit quite a bit in that they had their own stage, and so the Xbox presentation is on their own, like, conference convention hall presentation, so they have had, I'm sure, a lot more access to the stage to decorate it a lot better, and that's why their stage, I think, looked a lot better than the Jeff Keighley presentation. Although, in all fairness, Jeff Keighley really should have just had a better presentation anyways. Like, the Summer Games Fest presentation was the first presentation amongst the chain of long presentations, so stage could have definitely been a lot more decorated and designed and just fancier overall. Maybe they just don't have the money and the budget for that. I wouldn't be surprised if we never see Microsoft just being part of Summer Games Fest. I think Microsoft is going to want that control and that polish. Let's go ahead and take this. So yeah, I guess if you're saying Xbox versus PlayStation and Nintendo, Xbox One, I would say as far as presentations go, Starfield exclusively did a very good presentation, a very successful presentation too, because I think it explained more of what Starfield is to most people. And this is something I heard even another YouTuber talking about, is that after watching this most recent Starfield, they now feel like they have a much better idea of what the game is, where they haven't really been saying what it is up until this point. Yeah, clearly PlayStation is not as well represented compared to the Xbox, and the Nintendo Switch is not represented at all, and certainly any streaming softwares, or like literally no mention of any streaming software. Which, yeah, it's kind of silly that there isn't an Amazon or Google trying to promote a streaming software. And notably, there was even a little bit of push for Apple to support more gaming, but no real depiction of Apple either. This whole Summer Game Fest, if you are going to have an event like this, it wouldn't make a lot of sense for Apple to show up and say, hey, we're going to be the place for mobile games. Or Google to show up and say, hey, we're going to have a presentation for mobile games too. We're going to try and at least be mentioned in the same breath as console games and PC games. Even if they just have their presentations at the very, very end. Apple is effectively trying to convince game developers, though, to use a compatibility layer to get their games to work on their products. Whereas, notably, Diablo 1, 2, and 3 were macOS compatible. Diablo 4 does not have a iOS version out. Going to go ahead and change that to defense position. Now at this point, the next winner from Video Games Chronicle, Prince of Persia, despite the reaction, I feel like they're just trying to say something controversial here. I don't know at what level Prince of Persia, compared to any of the other games, is a major success. First of all, it didn't even exist, so if they hadn't announced it, it wouldn't have hurt it. And when you go from not existing at all to having at least a little bit of a negative reaction, that's hardly a win in my book. Their next suggestion, Sonic Superstars, I think it got a really good reaction, and it actually, I don't know if you should give points for this, but they seem to do pretty well by not showing that much and getting a good reaction for it. They say losers are frame rate obsessives. There's been definitely some talk around Starfield being locked at 30 frames per second, and a lot of people saying, well, they really don't care about that. DF Retro, and I tend to agree with this, has said in the past, and I'll repeat it, that a consistent, very stable 30 frames per second is better than an inconsistent 60 frames per second, by which they mean if you're getting 30 frames with one frame showing up 1/30th of a second each time, that is way better than getting 60 frames with half of the frames showing up in half of a second and half of the frames showing up in a second and a half. That intermixed is really way worse. And knowing Bethesda and that they effectively make buggy games and that their engine probably needs to be abandoned to Unreal Engine, or at least some other engine, knowing that they've had all these problems in the past, lowering their standards as far as the frame rate so that they can have a less buggy game and a more larger game overall with just more visual elements to be shown. It's really easy in my mind to side with the 30 frames per second decision. I'm sure somebody will patch out the 30 frames per second on Starfield. Now, there might be a bit of a catch-22 here, in that this screenshot in particular is just showing a lot of browns and a lot of hills and a lot of fog at 30 frames per second. So it's not like you're really zoomed in and showing details of human faces or anything. So maybe at 60 frames it would be better to have half as much detail and half as much rocks. It also, I think, is worth saying that if all Starfield is going to be a like giant empty world with not that much different visually, or not that much to what am I trying to say here? Well, even when playing Skyrim, you run into this problem where walking from one city to another city often is just a longer walking experience. You get some random encounters attacking you. So let's just say this mountain in the distance. If that is the next place where something interesting actually exists from here, and you just have to walk from here to here, that's just not that valuable to a player. It's just wasting the player's time. Yes, I see there's an alien monster here as far as a random encounter, but otherwise, if there's just nothing here. Now Skyrim wasn't terrible about that, because usually in the point from walking from here to, let's say, even here, you'd find a cave or something that would distract you, but even at that, an unimportant cave often was just yet another way of wasting the player's time. And that is just the open world problem in general, is that the idea of having open world games, open world 3D games, has been preached almost like a religion, so much that they've just gotten bigger and bigger, and which has just made more and more empty space in between each bespoke element of actual entertainment value. I don't want to have to walk a mile to get from one interesting cave to the next interesting cave. I want to walk for maybe 30 seconds at most, and then find something interesting and have more variety. Now, I would definitely appreciate a tighter, compact world when you're talking about a space game where there's lots and lots of different planets. On that though, I don't know if there was any other game that was announced that didn't look like it was mostly 60 frames per second. So yeah, these are definitely not winners and losers as much as these are excuses to link back to other articles Video Games Chronicle's already written. They said Foam Stars is a winner. Okay. Kind of the exact opposite of Prince of Persia. A game that didn't exist at all gets announced. People had a moderately positive reaction to it. We don't really know a lot about it. Losers are Xbox Series S owners, because they announced a bigger version that has more space, I guess? I don't even really feel like that was part of the Summer Game Fest as far as an announcement. It just, I wouldn't have really considered that part of those announcements. At a certain level, yeah, they didn't lower the price of the existing Series S and then sell the new version at the same price. But I can't really say, I can't agree with anybody who would say that them upgrading the space and then overcharging, in my opinion, for the upgrade is really that terrible of a move. Star Wars Outlaws, I guess if you're a Star Wars fan, you probably won with that. Also, I think if you're a Star Wars fan that's not looking to not play as a Jedi or Sith, you get some slight victory in that too. And there's so much you can do with this deck, and yet none of it is helpful. Like, I have no idea how you would play this strategy. Clearly somebody is playing some kind of strategies though. I wouldn't really call any Star Wars announcement a big win though, because so many of those games, I mean, you're betting at least 50% that as far as Star Wars games getting canceled or coming out and being mediocre at best. Yeah, I think that's probably going to be enough gameplay for today. So, I think we're going to have to call it there. So, yeah, duel more in the festival and maybe actually play something else. Of course, the other problem here is this festival is going to potentially just screw up my entire ranked play. So let's play ranked play. So the next loser is the Atlas Instagram team. I don't even know what this is all about. Atlas had already accidentally leaked both games a couple days earlier on its Instagram page. Okay. I hadn't heard anything about that, but whatever. Winner, Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty. Whatever. Losers, your wallets. Yep. So yeah. That's where Video Games Chronicles head is at as far as the winners and losers of the Summer Game Fest. I don't know why you really need to call anybody a winner or loser on any of that. Overall, I would say Summer Game Fest itself has been a major winner this year, and it is potentially setting us up for another next year or the year after that to be fairly strong as far as potential releases, assuming all the games that were announced actually come out and are even actually good. We definitely didn't get a lot of stuff that felt like it was just garbage games with no integrity or anything like that. So yeah, I still kind of feel like we'll probably see a PlayStation Direct in the next month or two, and a Nintendo Direct. I don't know why my internet's having trouble. Let's see. Drop frames because of network. Yeah. It's seemingly fixing itself, but whatever. Steam didn't directly have anything. I don't know if we really were expecting Valve to do anything. That's interesting, they have the average number of cards in this tier limit stack. Even. Yeah, I think in general it's better just to say this felt like a really good Summer Game Fest that mostly struggles in just too much being announced. I think Devolver Digital probably should gracefully bow out, and if they want to do a Devolver Digital announcements, they should do it outside of the E3 era because their presentation has always been pointless, and they really didn't have that many games to even announce. The Wholesome Direct or whatever, that live stream is definitely to a different type of audience, so maybe it doesn't need to be this involved either. The overall idea of the Summer Game Fest being a over the weekend multi-day event as a concept may be dead, because it's not like there really was a place where somebody could go to see games unless you were press, and maybe there's still some argument that flying press people out to see all these games over the course of 3 or 4 days makes some sense, but I don't know if that's really the case. Again, companies like Amazon.com or Newegg could be more involved. They could have sales based on building PCs or buying games. The direct sales. They could at least be better sponsors. I feel like there is one company, but it would make a lot of sense for just like Asus and every company that makes gaming PCs pre-builds for them to be involved. Even Walmart to potentially be involved as sponsors or something like that. But then you also get into the argument that I think makes a lot of sense, in that no other industry, except for maybe the upfronts, just crams all of your trailers and announcements together in this small window, when like it would make a lot more sense to stagger those announcements. Although in all fairness, when you think about movie and TV, the hype around movie and TV is considerably less, and movies and TVs are not making as much money because they're not building that hype, in part. Also, they're often just not making good products. Moving on. Apparently a LEGO 2K goal has been raided in South Korea. The raiding appears to confirm game plans that apparently VGC exclusively revealed last year. I don't remember any of this, but whatever. I don't know if I can really cross that barrier and continue to play LEGO games if they're going to be 2K games. We already have the LEGO 2K Drive game that sounds like it's going to have a lot of microtransactions in it, and I'm willing to give that a chance and look at it, but if all of a sudden half of all LEGO games are from 2K and they all have microtransactions in them like crazy, and they're just not really either a good style of gameplay, because I assume they're going to be a different type of gameplay, or a reasonably priced style of gameplay, and I just think I would stop playing those LEGO games and LEGO games in general. Which that works for me, frankly. I've played pretty much all of the TT LEGO games that have existed, so I could just draw a line there and then potentially try and find some other kinds of kids games. I know there isn't a lot of them out there. But there are some. Speaking of soccer, I watched some more Ted Lasso, and so it does seem like there's, I think, somewhere around 9 or 10 soccer players on the field. I don't think it's 100% limited. I think you maybe start with 10 and then people can be kicked off with a red card, and then you're playing a man down, according to what I saw on Ted Lasso, which that just further confuses this Lego set that they're using as a screenshot here on Twitter, in that there's 5 women on the field, 1 goalie from the other team, and then 4 ladies who are supposed to be real world equivalents. But like, you have half a field here and you're including just 4, so if what I've learned from Ted Lasso is any indication, you're supposed to then pretend that there are another 6 players on the other side of the field. Which, in all fairness, it would be really hard to get 10 characters onto the soccer field at this scale. But it doesn't feel like that's particularly educational to have such a significantly inaccurate number of players involved in the set. I would imagine you would want to give 10 players and then make it so only 4 or 5 of them really could be on the field. Particularly if you're playing with it like a toy, kids are only going to have 2 hands anyway, so they could only be moving 2 characters at once. Anyways, not without some kind of weird mechanism. Universal has released several Super Mario Bros. Movie bonus feature clips. They've been published to coincide with the physical film's physical release. Are these the same extras that were going to be on the disc? Maybe, but they're on YouTube. Which, by the way, I fixed my censorship problem, my self-censorship problem, in which I had installed an adult content blocker on my network and my Wi-Fi, and then I had set it up so certain devices were whitelisted to not have content blocked, and I had not set up my PC that I'm recording on to be one of the whitelisted devices. So we were getting links to YouTube videos and it would say your administrator has blocked this. And technically, I guess as the administrator, I had blocked it. Here's YouTube creators' Twitter things. They're promoting Pride videos. Although I don't know if this is really the best sentence to say. Your Pride videos are more inspiring than you know. And then rainbow flag and hearts. Like, it feels like that. You could rewrite that sentence and say it a little bit better. Also, they mostly are just promoting the fan funding and more with fewer subs, short views, and content watch hours. Now, noticeably, they don't have it written down. As far as what the old requirements were to. YouTube creators obviously designed to just make everybody, as many people as possible, think they will succeed. On YouTube, when the vast majority of content creators will not succeed. Now, Video Games Chronicles, I believe, or it was Gamatsu, one or the other, said that Atlus was kind of known for announcing games to other platforms within days of them being announced on the Xbox in this case, or the original platform. And I guess they were right, because Atlus has confirmed that Persona 3 Reload and Persona Tacticia, the kind of cell phone looking game, will be coming to other formats. Switch owners are going to miss out on the Persona 3 remake though. Let's see. So Persona 5 Tacticia will be released on the Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, Windows, Steam, PS5 and PS4, and Nintendo Switch on November 11th. And then Persona 3 Reload will be coming to the Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, Windows, Steam, PS4, and PS5 in early 2024. I kind of wonder if maybe the reason why the Persona 3 Reload doesn't have that extra content, in particular the ability to play as a female character, might have more to do with the fact that they just don't like that extra content. Which maybe there's something in that too. Like if they simply added extra content as a way of selling the same product twice, and that extra content is just not as well designed, then maybe in the remake, by focusing in on the points that are important, does make some sense. Jeez, why did I get so much rewards here? Seems like Yu-Gi-Oh! May have bumped up the amount of rewards. I don't think I've ever seen it cross over to the second line. Usually you get 2, maybe 3 items. And I don't know really where I'm getting this extra points either. Comeback victory for 1800. Quick victory, no damage. Duel victory. The creator of the Devil Came Through Here trilogy, the Cat Lady, Downfall, Lorelei, although I guess you're chronologically supposed to play Downfall first, and the original version of Downfall did come out first, has put out a new version of Burnhouse Lane, which I don't know if it's that technically is actually part of the trilogy or the 4th game in the trilogy, but with this new version they've got Brazilian, Portuguese, and Hungarian language support being added, and then Steam trading cards, which, if anything, it's kind of shocking that anybody is even still doing trading cards. I guess that is a slight indication though that Steam is still allowing trading cards. I wouldn't be surprised if Steam had just very quietly told people to stop doing trading cards overall. It's not the best system, and I don't think they care about it or focus on it. Although it would be very Valve-like to just continue to support something forever instead of drawing a line in the sand and actually killing it. So here we have GameDeveloper.com talking about Embracer Group, saying that their mergers and acquisition era is ending with job cuts and game cancellations. The big spending Swedish conglomeration is now seeking a more focused and self-sufficient company. I don't think there's any real details though in this story. Sounds like there might be a new management team in charge too. It may very well be the case that the people in charge of Embracer Group originally were simply trying to build up their own shares and wait until their shares are vested, and then jump ship. And maybe they will completely jump ship fairly recently from now. Let's see, we have a Video Games Chronicle article here saying the Summer Game Fest is returning in 2024, following what was a record-setting event this year, according to the producer Jeff Keighley. I would say one of the big losers, if we have to pick a loser as far as the Summer Game Fest, is that now more than ever, I feel like Summer Game Fest is outside of the hands of Jeff Keighley as far as that phrase. Summer Game Fest now just feels like it is a generic holiday that has always existed under the control of no one, and that anybody at any time in that same period could claim that their game is part of the Summer Game Fest or their presentation is part of the Summer Game Fest. And I just don't think Jeff Keighley has a trademark or copyright, or could get a trademark or copyright around that phrase. Hashtag anything at the moment is also kind of pointless, because very few things are using hashtags. Let's see. Guess we select that. And we select that. I don't really feel like there was any question there, though, that it wasn't coming back. Like, it'd be very weird. Guess it's worth mentioning that it looks like Netflix has really drawn a line in the sand over the past day in the United States as far as the whole anti-password sharing. That being said, analysts have already said that in the 4 hours that they drew that line in the sand, I believe it was 4 hours, they saw the most amount of new signups than they've ever seen in their entire history. So, yeah. The boycott, or the alleged boycott that was supposed to happen, or the outrage that was supposed to happen, didn't seem to last even 4 hours, which in all fairness, if you want to watch something on Netflix, or if your kids in particular want to watch something on Netflix, they're not going to care about any boycott. They're going to just want to watch their cartoons or whatever. Honestly, though, I think, despite Human Resources Season 2 coming out, and whatever else may come out relatively recently, I think you could probably do very well to skip at least 1 year of Netflix, because they really don't have that much new announced. And come back, say, a year later and have just kind of a backlog of content. Like, inherently, Netflix never loses the licenses to its own first-party title stuff. And more, that's what I would watch. So it's not really missing anything out to potentially to potentially just have a year of no Netflix and watch some other streaming services if you have multiple streaming services, and then come back a year later, watch it for maybe a year, maybe just a couple of months, and then unsubscribe again, which that is exactly what people have suggested people do, and that it's a hassle, certainly. Netflix really didn't time it well enough towards, say, the final season of Stranger Things or anything like that, and they cancel so many things anyways, so it's not like it gets you too much by watching things early. So, while Netflix drawing the line in the sand with the password sharing may have won a victory, they may in the long run have lost a war, because they may have forced a lot of people to realize they didn't really need Netflix. I guess this would be the equivalent of a wife kicking the husband out of the house, and then instead of the husband crawling back and begging for forgiveness, the husband just realizes, oh yeah, actually I'm way happier not around the nagging wife. So he just never comes back. Here's the Marvel Conquest trailer, I guess. See what it really shows. 2 minutes and 34 seconds. This new update is also really buggy. So yeah, you have this medal shop. They really quickly flash through the different ranks. And otherwise the gameplay is just not there. It's not really any different at all. You go up these 4 ranks. You need 5 wins on the 4th rank. And then every week there's more things you can purchase with the reward shop. With the medals. So they just want you to play over and over again. And I guess what the general idea here is that even if you don't make it all the way up the rank, just go as far as you can and you will earn more medals the higher you go, which will give you more medals to spend at the reward shop even after in the next week. So right now it's pretty much all about stockpiling as much metal as you can, and mostly it's going to come down to just can you commit that massive amount of stuff, of time, and you'll get this exclusive variant of a Green Goblin. Otherwise, I guess maybe there's a season reward, and you do get the daily quests done by playing Conquest mode. So they really have created a situation where you really should just always play Conquest mode. It just takes more time and more of a commitment, where they have effectively violated what Marvel Snap was selling itself on, which was a very small amount of time commitment, where games go only 1 or 2 or 3 minutes long, and they have instead become these much longer experiences that will take 10 or 20 minutes. I shouldn't have activated that card, but whatever. Also should have summoned Zeus, and I didn't. One thing about that trailer in particular, though, is just how much they're emphasizing the multiple types of currencies in tickets and medals, and on top of gold, and what are they called? Tokens, I guess. Collection tokens, and real world currency. It's like 5 different currencies in the game. It's ridiculous. Crystal Dynamics did this picture-long Twitter post saying, "Thanks everyone reaching out and asking about the most recent news of their parent company Embracer Group regarding the restructuring plans. We want to reassure fans there will be no impact on our continuing efforts with our partners at the initiative on Perfect Dark or their next Tomb Raider title being developed in collaboration with Amazon Games," which is basically just restating what was already said, in that only unannounced games would be cancelled. That they weren't canceling anything that was currently in development. That being said, we'll have to wait and see how much of that stays true. This probably isn't big news, but this was interesting that Metal Hellsinger DLC is adding tracks by Paramore, Depeche Mode, Gorillaz, Muse, and more. So, Metal Hellsinger, A Shoot on the Beat game has added music now that is not heavy metal music. Yeah, that's weird. Apparently, Diablo 4 has made more than $666 million in 5 days, according to Blizzard. I assume you can't just lie about that. I wouldn't be surprised if it's more than 666 million and they just wanted the 3 sixes, because that would make the most sense. That sounds like a big number. Certainly. This guy is definitely trying. I don't know if he's going to succeed. We need to stop after this game. We've gone too long. Capcom has announced a fresh delay for the game Pragmata. I have completely forgotten that Pragmata existed. This was the weird guy was on the moon, and then there was a little girl just showing up. Now we're seeing, I guess, her drawing while they're fighting robots. It definitely feels like Pragmata is just stealing some ideas from like Death Stranding, in that in Death Stranding you have a guy with a weird baby on his chest in a bottle, and it seems like in Pragmata he has this magical girl but the robot's trying to, I think, kill her, and he's defending her. It was originally scheduled for 2022. In November 2021, it was delayed to 2023. And now it's delayed even more. In all fairness, though, Capcom probably hasn't really shown us anything to even get hyped on, so if the game didn't exist at all, people really shouldn't be that upset about it. Like, we've seen a couple trailers that could turn into basically any kind of game at all. There is a GameDeveloper.com article saying that Diablo 4's development was set back by Blizzard's developer shuffles. Which... yeah, the subtitle here is Blizzard Entertainment's news title was hit hard during the development by the toxic behavior of its key staff. Which I feel like that's two somewhat separate things. Like, was it hurt because the staff was toxic, or was it hurt because the staff was found to be toxic and then shuffled out? Slightly different scenario. Okay, I think that has done well enough for us. If for some reason it seems like I've potentially finished this quest by playing the daily quest and playing ranked, I don't think that really should have worked that way if that's what actually happened. It probably isn't what actually happened. So overall today, we need to play more Festival, we need to play more Ranked, we need to Link Fusion or Pendulum Summon, we need to Duel Live, and we have a decent amount of gems that we're rebuilding, so yeah, everything seems like it's potentially getting better. Let's see, did I turn on the right thing? Yes, I did. So yeah. Its original key staff, Louis Bargia and Jesse McCree, are being named. and that apparently resulted in numerous ongoing issues. At a certain point, maybe this is a true story, or at a certain point, this might just be a good case of finding scapegoats. Although I don't know why you'd specifically find scapegoats. It's not like Diablo 4 is terrible. And the worst parts of Diablo 4 is like the microtransactions, and I don't feel like the development being set back led to microtransactions. Yeah. This is a story that would hit a lot better if Diablo 4 was bad, which by every reception I've heard, it isn't. So it's kind of not really an issue, is it? For your average gamer, if you told an average gamer that the game is great, but the employees were toxic, they're not going to care that much. They just want to eat the burger. They don't want to see how it's made, and they don't care that a cow was slaughtered to make the burger. And yeah, people can't take the weight of the world on their shoulders. So yeah, it's a terrible point to make when the game is well received. Perhaps you change your headline a little bit better and say the game could have been better if it weren't for the toxic employees. Maybe then that if you had any evidence to really prove that would be a story. But more it just comes off as GameDeveloper.com still just pushing the same narratives and stories they've been focused on for a long time, as far as pushing anti-Activision Blizzard propaganda, some of which seemed reasonable, a lot of it now seeming to be a lot more repetitive. Apparently EA says that AI regulation and unionization could negatively impact business. Almost certainly unionization would negatively impact business, which is a good thing, because we can't have unfettered businesses trying to destroy a economic system in favor of unbridled late stage capitalism. AI regulation is just something that needs to happen until we become or until we get to the point of like universal basic income for all employees. It's just ridiculous to potentially let a company like EA, who is obviously frothing at the bit to try and use AI writers and AI artists to replace humans and artists and creative people. And this is another example of where even if AI would lead to products being uncopyrightable, companies are willing to gamble that in the video game world. We've seen Cyan do that and admit to it. EA is basically admitting that that's their plan. Ubisoft has admitted they want to do it in a small part. So, yeah, it clearly is going to be a trend. As much as NFTs were pushed, as much as some of the other stupid concepts were pushed, CEOs who are clueless are going to push AI as much as possible. They're going to say the phrase AI even if they don't know what it means. I think we already talked about this. People can fly working for hire with Microsoft. So, yeah. And so that's going to bring us to the news. So, the fall list cleanup didn't run today, but that's fine. That'll just save us some time. So we'll skip directly to just looking at games when we get to that point. But now let's really quickly start going through the average video games chronicle news. There probably shouldn't be that much extra news considering we've had so many announcements, but I really didn't see a small amount of news. This would be also the point, well, a while ago when I turned on the blur, would have been the point that we would have, with a better macro programmed, that I would have muted Yu-Gi-Oh! Which at a certain point, me muting Yu-Gi-Oh! May have it still play in my ears, my headphones, in favor of playing some other kind of music and playing a playlist that's more randomized. Which, yeah, I would appreciate that. If I can find a good playlist of songs that aren't annoying. Of course, that is definitely not my wheelhouse as far as finding music or even knowing anything about music. Apparently Hi-Fi Rush's arcade challenge update adds a new game modes in July. I haven't heard anybody really say anything about Hi-Fi Rush lately. It definitely feels like it's yet another game that's just a flash in the pan, like almost all video games. Feels like a game that was talked about for about a week by the mainstream video game journalists, and then they moved on. A new Hellblade 2 developer diary showcases performance captures. I guess if you want to look at that, you can see there you've got a lot of face scan technology, and they're using an older technology, I would say, this with the white balls as far as the body scans. If anything, I would say this is probably a second generation 3D performance capture with the green eyeballs effectively and a single white ball as a point of reference, which really isn't that many points, where there is now a newer technology where somebody wears a suit that looks a lot like QR codes and the person is just captured with a multitude of extra points at that point. And at a certain point, really, you could use something like laser radar, LiDAR, to just scan a 3D body and not have to have these extra markers. Of course, this is the technology that the makers of Hellblade 2 has, and they can't really afford to upgrade the technology over and over again every new game. I'm sure they will eventually. They're leaning extremely heavy on that performance capture though, since that's basically all the game is. And I'm glad that did not start a trend where we start to see just a lot of people acting their hearts out or possibly overacting and getting performance capture in a video game and then the game having basically no video game elements to it, or very little. Let's see, Turn 10 has released a Forza Motorsport career mode gameplay demo if you want to check that out. Universal released the bonus features. Judge agreed to temporarily block the acquisition. God of War Ragnarok artist has defended the Starfield's 30 frames per second frame rate. It's not a sign that the game is unfinished. Seems like certainly you have really no reason to give an opinion of any kind on the internet, because it's just not really worth it to be involved, particularly if you're not involved with the game. It's not a sign of an unfinished game, it's a choice. 60 frames on this scale would be a large hit to the visual fidelity. My guess is they wanted to go for a seamless look and less pop-in. And of course you're right to dislike the choice. Not really that controversial of a statement, but I'm sure people will be upset about it. nonetheless. Yeah. The fidelity certainly is what we'll have to see. Is this even a screenshot from Starfield? Doesn't even really look right. In all fairness, if it is down to playing something at 60 and having pop-in versus playing it at 30 and not having pop-in, I would take not having pop-in, because we definitely see a lot of that as a problem. Might also very well be a case that it's a game designed to be above like 1080p, that it's closer shooting for a big widescreen 2K or 4K, and thus the lower frame rates. Although on consoles you can't get that kind of resolution, I don't think. Let's see. Apparently GTA Online has removed over 180 cars and moved some behind a paywall. Players will have to subscribe to GTA Online Plus to access some of them. These were lesser used cars, quote unquote. Well, I think in general you're probably a sucker for playing GTA Online in the first place, and if anything, this is probably an admission that very little of GTA Online has anything to do with actually the auto part and driving around that much, to the point where people would want specific cars or specific skins on cars. We already talked about this. Overwatch 2 story missions apparently are going to cost $15 to access, which that sounds unfair, but whatever. I don't think you should be playing Overwatch 2 in the first place. We already talked about this. We already talked about this. We already talked about this. That. June's PlayStation Plus game catalog titles have been confirmed. Let's see, Far Cry 6 and the rest of this list. Rogue Legacy coming to the PS4 and 5 may be a day one release for Rogue Legacy 2. PlayStation 5 game streaming is being tested, will be offered with the PlayStation Plus Premium. It will include PS Plus game catalog titles, game trials, and supported quote-unquote digital game players. Digital games that the players own. And I'm losing momentum here fast. I don't know what I've slept last, come to think of it. I also think these energy drinks that I have is potentially part of what's been upsetting my stomach. I'm gonna have to space out drinking those more infrequently. Assassin's Creed codename Jade closed beta signups are now live. Ubisoft has revealed the 10 minutes of Star Wars Outlaws gameplay if you want to check that out at Video Games Chronicles. Apparently there is a Capcom showcase live stream. I think that has... yeah, that was a while ago. That was 2 days ago. The only thing that I ran into problems with after opening like 200 tabs extra from the Summer Games Fest is that there was one link to a one OTK stream that just doesn't go anywhere. So I don't know if that went up and it went down or what, but it really doesn't matter. We've got plenty of games to show off. A lot of the games, though, I need to kind of filter through because it still can't really show games that require an age verification in front of them. And I was surprised to find that the one game that I already owned messed up the recording too. So at some point I logged in and it still has the cookie for that login. that hasn't been a problem up until this point because I've only looked at games that I absolutely wouldn't have been able to own, brand new games. But yeah, I don't think we have any progress on that front. I don't think there's a way to automate clicking the OK button and moving on. I don't know if there's a valid reason to potentially just play the audio of the trailer videos, which would make a little bit more sense than playing random music, but I think we'll just stick with random music. If I were to play the audio in a YouTube short, you'd only get the first minute of the audio, whatever that is, and then it would just loop. Moving on, Xbox says PC audience isn't a window, it's a market that deserves their games. Day one, Microsoft will generate $1 billion in PC gaming revenue this year, according to Phil Spencer. So they're making an argument that they really are focused around PC gaming as a separate market, not just treating it like a release window, a secondary release window. He was on a Giant Bomb thing, and you can see how the whole like Giant Bomb logo and the bomb that they are using is totally different now. And this At Night 3, I didn't even know Giant Bomb had a YouTube page. This is like 4 hours and 36 minutes. Alright. So, you've got they're doing basically a 6-person on the couch interview, all interviewing one person on a chair the other way. That's really unbalanced. At this point, even if these are all Giant Bomb people, which I will admit I cannot tell you if that's the case or not. I don't recognize any of these people at all. But even at that, it makes a lot of sense to set 2 or 3 people to the side of them and just have more of a round table appearance. Now this is a whole different group of people. So yeah, Giant Bomb did this before as a concept where they just get people together and get them drinking basically alcohol and get them talking to each other. And then they would cycle in another group of people to interview and talk. See, this might be Phil Spencer. But yeah. The reason why you would do this, though, still this guy on the couch, so it really is giving the feeling that he's the host. I don't even know who that is. But yeah, this made sense when you had E3 happening and everybody was in the same hotel for a presentation. And I guess that's still kind of the case. They have this whole behind the scenes depiction. The problem with this presentation, as I've seen before, I have no idea who this is, though, is that it really just shows you how unlikable a lot of these people are, or how little they have to say intelligent around game development or anything like that. Like, it doesn't make them come off as geniuses or people you really want to hang out with or anything like that. I would have a hard time justifying watching all of this 4 hours and 10 minutes, but maybe if I have nothing better to do, since my computer would be processing, maybe I'll watch some of that and try and figure out who some of those people even are. We already talked about Pragmata being released. I would prefer to just kind of get more of a description as far as what the game is. Ace Attorney 4 through 6 are being released as an HD trilogy. Apollo Justice Ace Attorney trilogy is coming to all formats in 2024, which includes Apollo Justice, Ace Attorney, Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney Dual Destinies, and Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Spirits of Justice. I am not 100% sure though that the other Phoenix Wright games, 1 through 3, as the first trilogy ever came to PC. I think something did, but yeah. These are all re-releases of old games, and I imagine there isn't going to be much of a remastering or anything around that. They are, looks like 3DS games, so you're going to have to adjust it slightly. But they are mostly visual novel things too. So I doubt the audio acting, if there is full voice acting in it, which I doubt there is, or the animations and drawings are going to be that improved. A new Dragon's Dogma 2 gameplay video has been released. If anything, it feels like Capcom's show did not really have that much to say. Yep, we had already talked about all of this. It's kind of surprising that they didn't have anything to say or show as far as Tomb Raider, since they seem to be swearing that they're going to make a new Tomb Raider game. This was a weird announcement, but I think we had already talked about it, with Soul Calibur 5 being permanently delisted next week. Let's see, talked about that. Xbox Game Studios chief says people need to realize games now take 4 to 6 years to make, whereas personally I've always thought 4 was about how long it's taking, but now I assume this is Phil Spencer is pushing the development date back to even 6 years being an average, or somewhere between that. I don't know how long you could get the number. Now, if anything, this is just the same argument about it costing too much to develop these giant AAA games, thus they're raising the prices of games because they've decided, game developers have decided that games need to be that expensive. At a certain level, game developers exclusively are also deciding that they need to take 4 to 6 years to make them, where we could just see an era in which games were half as long or half as visually polished, and then they would cost half as much. Theoretically, they really wouldn't. What we'd probably see is more of just a cap, and people stop making games any bigger than a certain level. And yeah, that's what I was trying to get across as far as Starfield too. I don't know if Starfield really needs to be bigger than, say, No Man's Sky, or really even have land masses bigger than the landmass of Skyrim. You already have a situation as far as the one landmass of Skyrim, with Starfield going to multiple planets, one assumes. And it's funny that they're using Fable as an example here. Maybe that is just to justify the fact that it's taken so long for Fable to be made and be released. This is the Chief Matt Booty. Both game players and the industry in general needs to realize that most big games now have development cycles of around half a decade. which I imagine most people don't want to work for 5 years with nothing to show about it. But in all fairness, most people who work a job work a lot longer than 5 years and have nothing to show for it. But creatives definitely don't want to do that. Although if you do kind of go back to like the Sistine Chapel and painters and things, plenty of people paint on paintings and take way longer than 6 years to actually finish a project or finish a painting. So artists in the past have worked that way too. At a certain level, if you didn't have the financial tie-in, artists would probably never finish a project, or would just finish it at whatever pace they felt comfortable with and not have any pressure to actually finish anything in any reasonable amount of time. Great novels probably get written over the course of decades, not years. And then here's where you can pre-order the Starfield Constellation Edition, I guess if you're interested in that, from Video Games Chronicles. That brings us to the Gamatsu's article. Star Wars we talked about. Let's see, Kunisugami Path of the Goddess is coming to PS5 and Steam. Is this the same game that I was looking at? Yeah. There's another game called 33 Immortals that's 33 player co-op, and it's a top-down 2D animation. So, yeah, I could see myself confusing those two. This was a Capcom game, and I didn't even realize it was. This is a new title that, quote, upholds Capcom's legacy of original and innovative works. Alright, if anything, it feels like it's probably an attempt at making something like Resident Evil, but not putting it in the crazy Resident Evil universe, which isn't the worst thought ever. Mega Man X Dive Offline has been announced for PC, iOS, and Android, due out in 2013. I feel like, though, this is a little late to the party as a replacement for Mega Man X Dive, which I think was just shut down. Feels like you would announce both of those. And it seems to me like you have a collection of different kind of Mega Man characters up front, and then some more traditional Mega Man characters in the back. And there is a pretty big difference there too. Here you have these kind of anime girls compared to the more first generation anime robot characters that Mega Man is sort of known for. At some point I probably should try some of these Mega Man games, since it feels like there's 2 or 3 different styles of Mega Man games out there now. Yeah, Pragmata has been delayed to an unannounced release date. Here we have a different screenshot. Although noticeably, when you look at this screenshot, this looks like somebody in a robot suit, whereas this guy looks more like he's in a space suit. Doesn't really feel like the same person. Whatever. I mean, you really can't know anything about it. Apparently, Ghost Trick Phantom Detective demo is now available, which is available across all platforms. I don't know if you really need to play a demo for that game, but whatever. Let's see, Ace Attorney Trilogy announced for everything. Well, no, announced for PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. noticeably missing from the next generation consoles, PS5 and Xbox Series. Now I'm starting to yawn too. Yeah, I am crashing. Exoprimal second open beta test set for June 15th to the 18th. Dragon's Dogma 2 Capcom showcase presentation details and screenshots on Gamatsu. Most of these look like just background images, but overall it does look kind of interesting as a fantasy game. But I don't know if there's anything here just screaming to grab my attention. I don't know if I've ever played Dragon's Dogma 1, which may play a big role. King of Fighters 15 crossplay update and free DLC character Gonitz launches June 20th. Okay. King of Fighters. Triangle Strategy version 1.1.0 update is now available. Adds chapter and story battle replay features and an extra chapter. Debian 12, the Linux operating system, also has come out. I kind of want to play with it, but I'm not going to waste my time installing Debian 12 for no other reason than just to play with it. I need a better goal than that. I talked about Embracer Group with layoffs, studio closures, and game cancellations. Let's see. Konosuba, God's Blessing on This Wonderful World, Love for These Clothes of Desires, coming to the PS4, Switch, and PC. Apparently this first launched September 2020 in Japan. What kind of game is it? It says it's a visual novel. Okay. So you've got a couple girls sleeping things. Then a schoolgirl outfit, which doesn't make the most sense in the Konosuba world, being wet. And then their standard outfit. Different outfit. Naked apron outfit. It definitely seems like she's naked behind the apron, which is a fetish. And then a more traditional dress. So every screenshot here really seems to be out of canon for the story. So yeah, this is basically a cosplay visual novel, for lack of a better explanation. Time, resource, and management, dress up. Partial nudity and sexual content. Yeah. I bet this doesn't end up in the adult section now, because I bet you just don't see that much. Konosuba and anime being a lewd anime, not likely to make the full jump to nude. Let's see, moving on. Naruto X Boruto Ultimate Ninja Storm Connections adds Boruto Karma, Kawaki, and Jigen. Which, yeah. I have no idea what any of that is about, but I would assume these black marks, tattoos, mean something. In particular, Karma. You would think that Naruto as a series was about them learning more and more attacks and gaining more and more abilities and power creep. But so much of Naruto is just filler arc they really don't learn a whole bunch of new attacks in Power Creep. They get maybe 1 or 2 new attacks, and that's it. Yeah, like the Rasengan, I think that's what this is called, was one of the attacks that Rydo learns in the TV series, and that's pretty much it. After he learns that, he kind of doesn't learn anything else. Let's see. High on Life DLC High on Knife has been announced. That being said, you do have the slight problem in that there was that whole cancel attempt against the guy who voiced the gun in High on Life. Although the cancel attempt failed terribly and basically came down to the person making the Me Too claim recanting. That being said, this High on Knife will bring in a new talking gun character, Harper, voiced by Sarah Sherman from Saturday Night Live. I have no idea who she is. I'd have to see a picture of her. So yeah, now that I've stopped the adult content blocking, this is what I should have been seeing, is links that would have taken me to the video. And boy, does that rated M for mature seem to have everything warning. This does bring about an interesting question, certainly, as far as, is it necessary in the long run to play High on Life at all? Because I've kind of forgotten about it as a game. I don't know how many people actually played it or actually would care about it. Definitely seems like High on Knife as DLC is a lot darker and more horror based than what High on Life looked like it was. But if anything, High on Life might just be an example of, even if something is weird, that doesn't mean that it needs to be played or covered. As much as I love weird games, sometimes weird is just not enough. Let's see. A game called The Lamplighters League launches October 3rd. It's a turn-based strategy game from Paradox Interactive. After I have all of the videos that I've made for the Steam Summer Game Fest, I then also have a massive amount of YouTube shorts I need to make otherwise. Nexomon 3 has been announced for PC. It goes 3D with an open world and new battle system. And inherently, I'm not counting any of these as part of the Summer Game Fest. The first Descendant crossplay open beta test set for August 22nd to the 28th. I feel like I've seen this game, but I don't remember it. Although inherently that's going to be the problem over and over again. Now that we've gone through the Summer Game Fest, everything is going to just be erased from my brain as far as any announcements before that point. I don't know if I really have seen this, but whatever. Hi-Fi Rush Arcade Challenge update launches July 5th. Adds new game modes, special attacks, and more. I guess I'll leave it at that for you there. Well, guess I should make a short around that. Let's see. Phasmophobia is coming to the PS5, PSVR 2, and Xbox Series in early access in August. Phasmophobia, is this a remake of an old game? I don't think it is. No, it isn't. Need to try and power through this quicker. Power Wash Simulator DLC SpongeBob SquarePants Special Pack launches June 29th. Can we find that specific DLC to make a YouTube short around it? Nope, not yet. So I won't make a YouTube short around that. Liza P has a 9-minute gameplay showcase if you want to check that out on Gametsu. Lightyear Frontier launches in early access in early 2024. This looks like a weird mech resource management game. At a certain point, I'm probably putting too many things on the fault list, but whatever. Because I'm putting some games that almost certainly shouldn't be on the fault list because I wouldn't really want to play them. Another Crab's Treasure as an Xbox One and an Xbox Series versions. This is definitely not a game I recognize. So if I see something that I don't recognize and it's not on the fault list, I should probably make a short around it, but eventually if I look at a game and I already am following it and there's really no reason to make another short around it, I shouldn't do that. Which means I am drastically changing how I'm using the follow list. Little Kitty Big City adds an Xbox One and Xbox Series versions. Definitely feels like there's something in the way all of this is spelled. But since this is my plugin changing the text, it would have said something closer to Xbox Series and Xbox One and made it a little bit wordier. But the capitalization seems to be off. So yeah, this is an example of something that is on the fall list, so I'm not going to make another YouTube short around it. I assume I already did. 2 new Xbox Game Pass titles have been announced: Sea of Stars, Miniko's Night Market, Tectonica, and more. Let's see, another Crab's Treasure, The Bookwalker, Thief of Tales, Galacticare, Harold Halibut, Little Kitty Big City, Miniko's Night Market, or Miniko's Night Market, Neon White, Sea of Stars, Tectonica, and The Wandering Village. Okay. Again, these are, I guess, things that maybe were announced as part of the Summer Game Fest, and maybe these are the games I'm missing. But you know what, I've got so many YouTube shorts already. If I miss these 10 independent games, none of which may even be on Steam, that's fine. At a certain point next year, or whenever there is another fest, which maybe will be in the winter, I am going to just look at whatever Steam does and whatever links Steam directly has, and I'll hopefully get all this work done earlier as far as putting out shorts, but it will be limited to just what Steam gives me, which will still probably be a ton of games. Persona 5 Tacticia also coming to the PS4 and 5 and Switch and Steam. but I don't think they have a link to any of it yet. Persona 3 Reload is also coming to the PS5 and Steam, which, yeah, we already talked about that. Master Detective Archives Raincode has game mechanics trailer, if you want to look at that trailer. Then we talked about Lego 2K Goal, rated in Korea. It does feel like sometimes when they put out these announcements that something is rated in a country, that it goes quiet either for a fairly long time or forever. I almost could swear that there's been 2 or 3 games that have been rated somewhere, and we still have yet to hear any announcements or release around those games. Or it's so easy to basically throw an article out there and just wait until people forget that you had put out an article, and then do that 10 times and just claim all the victories as being 100% accurate when maybe you're really only 50% accurate, or 50% proven at least. Agatha Christie Murder on the Orient Express launches October 19th. Let's see. We don't have a link to it on Steam. In particular, I think this game is going to be in a very weird position because, A, if you've read the books, you know the whole events of the story. B, if you watched the movie that came out like a year or 2 ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, you know the events there. I don't think the events drastically changed between the book and the movie. So you play the third game here, you're probably, unless you just play the game completely. And see, even I know the spoiler as somebody who hasn't watched the movie or read the book, so I guess I could be somewhat shocked. Now, that being said, I do think the story has been changed for some of these Agatha Christie stories before. The ABC murders in particular is one I covered, and it sounds like what happens in that game is slightly different than what happens in the book, but maybe not particularly that different. The bigger problem certainly is just the question as far as how many people really care about Agatha Christie enough for there to really be a game based on their stories anyway, her stories. Let's see. Gamatsu has the Famitsu review scores for issue 1802. Company of Heroes 3 getting 29 out of 40, that's pretty low. Moto GP 23 getting 32 out of 40. Something called Senses Midnight is 23 out of 40. And then Super Bullet Break is 31 out of 40, so nothing huge coming out this week, which I guess no real surprise there. I already talked about Might and Magic Clash of Heroes Definitive Edition launching July 20th. Armored Core 6 Fires of the Rubicon has its first hands-on gameplay. If you want to check out these videos on Gamatsu. And then Rogue Legacy 2 is coming to the PS4 and 5 on June 20th. It includes all existing content updates. I guess the real question though is to ask, is Rogue Legacy 2 on Steam considered early access? And I guess the answer is no, it's already on my wish list. I know, I'm pretty sure it was early access for at least a decent amount of years. Or months, maybe not years. And then that brings us to GameDeveloper.com articles, many of which we can just skip through very quickly. Armor Games CEO John Cooney has announced his departure. Cooney was the first employee Armor ever had and developed a number of Flash games such as This Is the Only Level and Achievement Unlocked. I guess a bigger question though would be, what has Armor Games released recently, because a couple of Flash games is not much of anything. He apparently left the company in 2012. He returned in 2019 as vice president. Then he took over CEO duties from the original CEO founder Daniel McNeely 2 years later. Outside of Armory, he was a developer for Flash games and previously founded his own studio, JMTBO2 Studios. He also made Angel Beat and Elephant Quest. Yeah, this is one of those examples where, yes, it is news, but when you're talking about a game company that seemingly has not put out anything of note, it doesn't really feel like news. Let's see. Overwatch 2's reworked PvE mode runs $15 for permanent access. We talked about Unity's sales declining. A UK games fund nets an extra £5 million to offer more support to developers. Which, okay. They want greater scale of support. Let's see, we already talked about the FTC winning a temporary preliminary injunction. We already talked about EA being anti-union and anti-regulation, like every other company in the world. And then we already talked about People Can Fly getting a work-for-hire deal, although it's funny they use that phrase instead of like a contract deal, but whatever. Same meaning. And then I have the interstitial of the fall list cleanup, but this is what happened, was the fall list did not load in, so the macro just ended at that point, which does point out that I should probably have some more robustness in my macro programming when opening these tabs, so it just moves on to the next thing instead of just erroring out and breaking. So then that brings us to the new games that have come out. So we have something here called Hello Kitty, which is already mixed, so I'm going to say no to that. And then Hades Nebula. I'm going to put this on the fall list, but I'm not going to make a short around it, just in case that is some kind of relevant old game I don't recognize. And then our first adult game. I imagine we're not going to see a lot of games today. We probably will see 2 or 3 adult games. So we have Sex Story, Ruby, and Hunter Episode 1. 3D CGI image seems to be taking place mostly in a bathroom, and I guess it's a cafeteria, which that setting is different at least. It's some kind of restaurant bar. Yeah, one of these screenshots weirdly has the girl holding herself up on a urinal, which just seems like that would be very dangerous and slippery and just difficult to hold yourself up. And then another one has her laying her head down on the top of a toilet, which just seems a little gross and weird. Like, honestly, the bar area outside of the bathroom would make a lot more sense. Or against the wall would make sense in the bathroom. But yeah, otherwise I assume this is just a visual novel for $1.39. It is episode 1, so I assume they're going to try and charge a lot over a longer period of time. It weirdly has 2 achievements, and it has like no mature content description at all. Let's see. Graphically depicts sex in still images among male and female characters. I guess at some point it's admitting they are just pre-rendered still images, which so many of these 3D CGI games definitely try to give the feeling that it might be more interactive than that. It looks like it would be an interactive game, but most of them I bet aren't. Yeah, but yeah, definitely no real quality there. Nothing that would make it even worth that much. Same can be said about this game, White Blade. Let's see. Nararu Fishy Fight. It's rated extremely positively, and it's on the fall list, so I have to assume this one just came out of early access. Yeah, wouldn't have this many reviews if it wasn't in early access. So I guess I'll make a short around that. Although I don't know if that really is the right thing. This is also an adult game called Gentleman's Puzzle Club. Square tile slide puzzles with anime girls. I think most of these screenshots are also probably YouTube family safe. Like literally there's only one screenshot that seems to show nipples and another one that shows underwear. This game is $1.99, more expensive. It claims to have full audio support for all 103 languages on Steam, which that's fishy. It says it has 28 different puzzles, but I think a lot of the images probably are not actually showing any nudity either. So this time it is more flat 2D animation style. And I would say there's kind of a unique animation style to this too that seems somewhat consistent. But yeah, again, just a slide tile puzzle. It's not something I could say yes to. Also can't say yes to Spider. Or this. Rooms of Realities, a VR puzzle adventure game. Doesn't look particularly well designed visually. Enjoying co-op or solo mode, requires VR. So both I need to ask myself what I want to put this on the fall list, or would I want to make a YouTube short around it? I think I'll say yes to both just because I don't want to make a lot of decisions today. Dan Sparkling. Looks like it's maybe a dance simulator. See, game you play with just one PC camera. Of course, you can also use your phone camera. So it, I guess, looks at you, and then you dance around it. It's an interesting idea. I don't know if there's too many games that have tried that. I know there's at least a couple that have, but I'm not sure any of them have succeeded, and I definitely don't feel like this one's really going to succeed. The actual visuals here, though, look pretty wonky. Just kind of looks like medium effort asset flipped anime girls, and music licenses would have to be pretty good. This is early access, so I think I'm going to just say no to this. That and the fact that I would just never, ever play a dancing game. I have no interest in that at all. Plus, I couldn't really even present it well. Carom Slam. This feels like one of those games that is physical in that you're bouncing little pips against each other or discs against each other. And I think that level of entertainment probably falls down quite a bit when you're doing it in a digital format. Although in all fairness, a good billiards game can still work pretty well even though you lose the physical realities of billiards games. Well, here we have a hidden object game. I'll make a short around. There's a slight danger, certainly, around games like this, which is already on my follow list, so I'm not going to make another YouTube short on it, because I think this is also part of the Summer Games Fest. And so there may very well be some overlaps. And almost certainly I'm not going to spend any effort to address any overlaps. So if there are two games that get YouTube shorts, or a game that gets two YouTube shorts made on it, I mean, that's just going to happen. I'm not going to search every title first for redundancies. And in most cases, even if something did get two YouTube shorts, I think there would be some logical reason for that. Either there's an update or something else. So this definitely feels like this is a foot fetish simulator, in that you can pose feet. That being said, maybe I don't understand what people are really looking for in foot fetishes, because I don't feel like this is really satisfying anybody. If anything, it feels like it's more just an anatomical poser. Like, generally, I don't think people with foot fetishes want their feet completely detached from the human, and I think they want the feet interacting with genitalia. I don't think people with foot fetishes really want to see action poses either. Yeah. If anything, this feels like somebody just is asset flipping feet models for some reason. Kessler syndrome. I've forgotten what Kessler syndrome is. Well, regardless of whatever Kessler syndrome means, this game doesn't look that good. Overwhelmed. Yeah, that's me at the moment. Just feel incredibly overwhelmed with all the work that needs to be done. This is weird. It looks like it's live action pictures, but then there's platforming on top of it, which probably wouldn't work, but I'm willing to use any projector to make unique characters, create custom levels, and transform any space. Oh, I see. You have to use a projector. So it's like create your own augmented reality if you have a projector. Which at a certain level, you could have always done that. But I also have to question whether you can actually successfully pull that off, because the projector would have to be projecting no background image at all. Yeah, I just don't think that there's enough here. Yeah, you can see it's just a big black screen for the most of the background. Yeah, I don't think that's the way to really achieve augmented reality. It seems a little crazy. This is a different looking tower defense game. But I don't think it's different enough to make me want to say yes to putting it on the follow list or making a short around it. We have a game called Undawn that's already mixed. So why is it already mixed? It's a free-to-play MMO. I assume the servers don't work. In Japan, there's no English language. Dead game before release. Where the server's at. Can't even get into the game. Yeah. I think we can skip that safely. Oblivion Override looks interesting. It's on the fall list. And it's an early access. So I'm gonna just say no. Butterfly, Poison, and Blood Chains. Oh, this looks like a visual novel. I wonder if maybe it's a Chinese visual novel? The animation looks a little too good to be a Chinese visual novel. But this outfit does seem to be more in the World War I era. $38.24 is asking quite a lot there on price, but I definitely don't decide based on price. So I'll make a YouTube short around that. At a certain level, maybe YouTube shorts are better for visual novels than anything else, in that I don't have to really play them or cover them while I could still feel like I'm somewhat supporting them. Same may be true for adult games, like this adult game, Slave Lord Elven Conquest. You have a flat 2D, bright, colorful palette, kind of anime inspired, although I would say the art style as far as the proportions and angles seems to be a little inconsistent. This definitely seems to be heavy into bondage and sadomasochism and torture. Seems like it might be a parody of Konosuba, looking at one of the characters. You have what looks like a very wide variety of ladies, too. Does look like there's some visual novel dialogue, too. I don't know if there are just sections where you can simulate run a scenario, or if there's an actual game. They say it's a point and click with management elements. It's selling for $8.99. It's English only, which, yeah, that seems more in line with the animation style. Also, so yeah, I'm gonna put this on the fall list and just see if people like it. Of course, the problem there is even if I'm using the blur, a lot of these games immediately first screenshot just full on inappropriate adult content. Or full on adult content, at least. I don't know if inappropriate is the right phrase to claim. So when I put something on the fall list, immediately I'm again potentially bringing up mature content. We have a game called Don't Stop that doesn't look like anything. Dubium. Survival deception game. Another online game. Another game I suspect just is not working. Boring, repetitive, pointless, says one review. Too many Norwegian locks, so too many people speaking Chinese for a deception game. Yep. This was the one that was the 3D Among Us, or one of the 3D Among Us type games that I think we'll start to see several of these come out over the next 6 months, and then maybe we'll see it die down as Among Us clones don't succeed, and Among Us itself, I don't know if it's really that popular anymore. That being said, for the moment I'll put this on the fall list, but I'm not going to make a short around it. It may be very close to being done. Operation Save Anna. This is funny. It says the game is marked as containing frequent nudity and sexual content. You're seeing this game because you've set your preferences to allow this content. That's different phrasing. And notably, there's not really any screenshot here that looks like anything there like that, unless these are naked ladies. This just looks like a asset flip anime lady. So either they've changed their descriptions to be more accurate, which is probably a smart move, because the adult section on Steam really is just the nudity section on Steam. They don't care how bloody a game is. They don't care if there are any high-minded, difficult to understand, controversial ideas in a game, or anything else that would potentially make something feel like it was more adult. They don't care about cussing or anything like that. Please do not play in public. Interesting. As a YouTube content creator, should I follow the wishes of a game developer and creator? I don't know. So yeah, this looks like different text, but it definitely looks like it's in the adult section. Idle Magic Legend doesn't look like anything. And we've got 2 links in a row to the same thing. Some things out there is nothing. Restaurant Simulator 2023 looks like it's just a mobile game, if anything. I mean, it looks like a mobile game. I don't think it's anything else. The Cursed Amulet doesn't look polished enough. Rusty Lines doesn't look like enough of an interesting experience. Creature Lab is mostly negative at 31. What are the reviews? This game just gives a black screen of death after the developer logo. I let it sit there for a good 15 minutes, no effects. They should have just done early access the way they would have had the time and resources to fix it. It's very buggy, crashed many times. 8 to save file. Full of bugs. Most of them game breaking. Not even sure I really understand what the game is supposed to be here. Seems like you're taking corpses and making a Frankensteinian like monster or something like that. There's an interesting thought to make a game where you're playing as Frankenstein making a monster, or mixing and matching bugs or body parts and insect parts. This one looks like it has a lobster claw. There was a pinball that was kind of around that theme. Mostly I assume this is just an asset flip garbage game though, and that's what I'm going to leave it at. I don't know what the next step though to make a video game entertaining would be if you're creating Frankensteinian monsters and swapping out body parts. You'd have to have some kind of enemy you were fighting, and you'd have to send out your monsters to fight on your behalf. It would probably make sense if it were like an RPG game, and then you were creating monsters and upgrading your body. Some kind of body horror RPG game. David Cronenberg inspired might make some sense too. Etrian Odyssey 2 HD definitely is a name I recognize, so that's going to get a short. And Etrian Odyssey 1 HD, obviously recognize that too. These have very positive reviews, so you know, it may not be the worst thought ever if I was going to play a kind of dungeon crawling game to play one like Etrian Odyssey, which I think probably only has 2 games in its series, unless I'm totally mistaken about that, and looks like it's a fairly modern game anyways. So it may not have some of the flaws that older games would have had. Well, I guess I was wrong, because here's an Etrian Odyssey 3, which maybe there's a slight problem in that there's 3 dungeon crawling games we're seeing here, and they all seem to be very similar in visual style. So even if this is the only 3 of this game series, it does feel like they are potentially determined to churn these out very quickly. I do kind of like the art style though, I'll leave it at that. Then we have something called Daydream, which is already on the fall list. And then VR Giants looks interesting enough to give a follow. And then Cabin Rush does not look interesting enough. And here we have a adult game called Sinful Catalyst Channel 1 Ethereal Camilla. We have a trailer with actual motion and video happening. It weirdly seems like it's a visual novel with some kind of symbol drawing minigame that I don't really recognize. It's like a dial. It's a 3x3 grid of dots, and you're making different patterns. So maybe the idea is you have to make different patterns for the enemy you're fighting, because they seem to be killed in one hit. Which, that's an interesting thought, certainly, as far as how you'd make a mobile game. And this is definitely a mobile game because it's being published by Newtaku, who exclusively, up until this point, has only made adult content mobile games. It's weird that it's on Steam itself, since Newtaku has their own website. That being said, there is also a problem in that most Newtaku games, if not all of them, are not really that good. But yeah, Sinful Catalyst Channel 1 Ethereal Camilla. I'm going to put it on the follow list just to see if it's well received. It's Spanish and Spain Spanish and English. It's selling for $1.99, and it doesn't have any in-app purchases, where most Newtaku games do have in-app purchases too. Generally speaking, I would like to see more Newtaku games, all Newtaku games, on Steam. But I don't think that's really been the case, and at a certain level, Steam is not selling mobile games anyways. Let me just scroll down here and see if I can show this unblurred. So apparently Newtaku Publishing does have a history on Steam going back to 2017 with Karma Sutra, and then we can see they put out quite a few of these, I guess, Steam versions of these games. They have a smaller selection of gay games, guy on guy gay games. Pretty much assume all the ones with ladies have some lesbian actions here. But yeah, I would say the vast majority of Nutaku games are not really worth playing, and it seems to me like there's probably at least several games here that are not, that are kind of missing. What am I trying to say? There's several games on Nutaku for like Android that are not, that don't have PC versions on Steam. I suppose we're forever in this situation where we're looking for the one breakout hit as far as an adult game from a publisher that actually would potentially create more games and release them, and that sadly has not happened for Nutaku, and there's not really a major breakout hit that could have led them to make better quality games, and we run constantly into that problem of quality just being really low for adult content, and maybe it's good enough that way for its purpose, but I think it'd be nice if quality did go up. You see the same problem in just like Pornhub content too, and porn in general, is that the quality is particularly low and there's no real demand or need to make it any better. Moving on, this Wizardry School escape room looks interesting enough for a short. And then Metro Simulator 2, I don't think is quite visually polished enough to say yes to, plus the idea itself is kind of weird. As far as driving a metro train or otherwise. Okay, well, we managed not to go 4 hours and 30 minutes like the last stream, and hopefully we can get faster next week when we're not covering a whole bunch of Steam Summer Game Fest stuff. But yeah, that's going to be it for this stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to support me further, there's some links down below. Thank you for watching.